Okay, let's start the show.
For Thursday, September 12th, 2019, welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. Hello and welcome to this auspicious Thursday. As it's another big week for this podcast, we had last week's Dragon Con recap with Kishore Hari here in this room.
That was my week.
President accounted for. And before that, I talked about Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland Parks. And
Your
before
week?
that, well, no, this is Jeremy's week.
I
don't appreciate that. I do not appreciate. I am not the Apple fanboy in this show. I know it's not
Anymore.
you either.
Whoa, you're on notice, Apple.
If anything, I claim the week that I went to Pinburg, and I regaled you with the tales of my pinball competition.
Yes.
And the D division.
And now that we are 4 weeks after that,
Yeah.
we've cycled back,
Yeah.
and it's back to your week.
Things that annoy me, my week.
All right.
I mean, who here in this room watched the entirety of the Apple Live event?
I did.
Oh, there you go. You're the only one qualified
I did
to
not.
talk about it. I watched most of it. But welcome everyone here. President accounted for, Jeremy,
Yes.
Kishore.
Yep.
How were your weekends? Oh, no one remembers.
Dang it, I don't
What
remember.
did you do?
It's Wednesday, Norm. I can't
know.
remember the weekend.
Oh, we had a great time last night as you're listening to this at the Tested event.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. Well, we'll be talking about that at the end of show.
We played Stunt Runner last night.
did.
We couldn't hear Kishore, but we saw him. We did all play together.
Yeah, you saw me cross the finish line at like a half hour after you.
This is a VR game. I guess it's exclusively VR anymore, since Rec Room's available on everything.
That's true.
But it's the new mode for Rec Room where we basically are playing American Ninja Warrior.
Yes.
It's fun.
You missed a hilarious moment where I dropped one of my controllers and I kept falling for a while. Because it had landed on the ground and depressed into that like focus
Oh, no.
cone, and so I was stuck on this bouncy thing. And I was wondering if you were watching me from the finish line.
Oh, I so wish
Just
we could have heard
laughing.
you.
I went on a minor road trip, small road trip this last weekend. I remember that as well. It was for a wedding. Went to a wedding, drove the car, charged it at some interesting places, found maybe my new favorite supercharger spot in California.
You think 100 years ago when cars were new, people were like, I went on a road trip and I filled it with gasoline.
And, well,
It's my new favorite gasoline.
Hey, you joke at that, but back, not 100 years ago, but back 60 years ago,
Yeah.
people did go on road trips across America and pick their favorite places to stop and fill up on gas and look at the roadside attractions.
It's
That
just-
was a big part of Americana.
I'm just saying it sounds so
The
modern,
Polynesian Tiki Bar,
but
the dinosaur park.
this is mundane stuff. I mean, it's going to be seen as such soon.
But now it's novel.
It does kind of seem novel.
It is novel because there are only so many of those spots in the world right now where you can find a place to charge your car speedily.
So what makes this electron fill-up station so much better than the others?
It's at a historic hotel called the Madonna Inn.
Oh, no, I'm familiar with it.
You're familiar, so you know how amazing it is. There's a supercharger there.
I did not know that.
I had never been. I did not know that place existed.
Every room is different.
I went to the gift shop, and the best way to describe it is a place stuck in the 60s. You could hear the Twin Peaks music playing, the Shining music. It is encased in red marble and pink tufted leather and fake giant roses, and it's a place where a ghost band you can imagine haunting the dance floor. But yes, there is an inn that exists there. It's created by the Madonna family, I believe, and the best part is that every room is different, and if you go to the gift store, you can buy a postcard showing the room you stayed in.
Did you stay there?
No, I wish we stayed there.
They're
We
probably
didn't
booked.
know.
They fill up months in advance.
Oh, really? Okay, so I probably didn't have that opportunity. We had friends who stayed there, and they loved it. Apparently, the steakhouse is really good.
Oh, yeah?
It was packed for people eating in their cafe.
This is on Highway 1, right?
This is on 101.
Oh, is it?
101.
I've never been, but
Yeah.
we have talked about it.
Oh, okay. So you looked up as a
Yeah.
place of interest. I highly recommend even stopping there to look around. And when you have to be there for about 45 minutes to charge up a vehicle, then it's a perfect amount of time to do a little stroll around, take some pictures, use their bathroom, in which the men's restroom, you pee on rocks.
Nah.
Yes, you pee on like a slab of granite.
As it should
a
be.
giant slab of granite. Yes, it is an experience into itself. And hugely ornate. There's even a wine cellar down there.
And it's a proper supercharger, not your
It's
standard
a
240.
It's an impacted supercharger. It's a place where if you go there, you'll most likely be capped by the supercharger to only 80% because there will be other cars waiting. They don't want you to fill up to 100. Even though if you really need to, you can override that and fill up to 100.
Just what an ad for this place. Do you want to charge your car? Do you want to pee on granite?
That's right.
Do you want to
have
listen to
delicious steak?
Twin Peaks music while it's all happening?
The Madonna Inn Resort and Spa. Look it up.
Okay. Should we go on to some Apple news?
Yeah.
Top story this week.
Hey, can we agree on one thing before we do this? Let's shelve the snark for once. Like it's been 24 hours. We're recording this 24 hours after the event, and my Twitter feed is just people making fun of silly things from the keynote. And I think it's boring at this point.
I feel like I'm at a Hari family meeting.
Yes, so we're going to have a family meeting about overly criticizing dumb memes talking about memes from the event. Like, because I think if you dig down, there's some interesting stuff.
Yes, Father.
Okay, great. Lecture over.
Shelve the snark, children.
Where do you want to start, Norm?
Ooh, good question. We can go through the way they went through it. And yeah, we'll be kind of giving our thoughts and opinions. We're not going to be relaying what they announced, though. I think more interestingly is what they did not say. And we'll try to kind of point out the things that were not explicit, the subtext of it all.
Are you saying they didn't say anything interesting?
No, I did. I think the announcements were interesting,
Okay.
but I think what they didn't say probably a little more telling
Okay.
about their thoughts on their business strategy, their thoughts on this hardware generation. That's, I think, where we can have some interesting discussion. But let's start off with the TV stuff. And I guess the arcade also goes along with that. I think they kicked it off with the arcade stuff. Is that right? Yeah, that feels right. So we have that launching this week. This is their subscription service. They're big, services are a big part of their business now, and they're going to launch this
Next week,
September 19th. Their Apple Arcade Plus, $5 a month, $4.99 a month, $5 a month essentially,
Yep.
and that includes shared play for the entire family.
Six people.
6 people. First month free. 100 exclusive games with new games every month.
100 plus.
Why am I not excited about this at all?
Because your kid doesn't play games yet. The nice thing about this service to me is that all of the games are ad-free.
Yep.
No in-app purchases
Yep.
required. Now, I don't know if that means they're going to allow them or not. I'm hoping not.
Oh, that's such a tease. I thought it was just going to be no in-app purchases.
I'm going to go with that and be disappointed otherwise. Those two things alone, plus obviously 100 games for $5 a month, I'm in. Like, that's great. I don't know what the age ratings are going to be. They haven't announced that yet. So I'm sure that it will still abide by any kind of parental controls you have on there, like no 17 plus games.
Right.
But it sounds great because my kids are constantly getting all these free apps that are so inundated with advertisements. Every 20
So
seconds.
this is a cultural thing. This is for people who actually go into the App Store and buy new games every week and actually cycle through and try the new thing. I haven't done that in a long time. I don't feel compelled to do that.
Me neither. But I'm not playing games elsewhere either, unless it's in VR mostly.
I paid for Super Mario Run, which was basically double. It's 2 months of this service.
That was right.
basically.
$10. Yeah.
So, I thought the underwater game looked cool. I was not sold on Frogger. This is all going to be about what are the games like. And so I would probably wait a week and see some of the reviews of the
free.
exclusive titles.
You got a free month.
Yeah.
I guess when do you want to push that button?
They had a big wall that they put up of logos from different companies, and they touted a bunch of developers they were working with, including developers of very popular, successful App Store games like Monument Valley. They even said Will Wright, and I don't know if we're going to get the SimCity of iOS onto this.
Yeah.
But But you're not gonna. I mean, is that realistic to expect that? That game doesn't exist, right?
And do kids want to play anything but Fortnite?
Yeah, Fortnite's way down in popularity.
Not way down, right?
It's pretty far down in popularity.
I don't know. There's probably gonna be a handful of good games in here. They've only announced 25% of what the 100 are going to be at launch. They haven't even announced all of them. And I'm sure that those 75 they haven't announced aren't going to be huge deals. But the fact that the gamepads are going to be supported by iOS, that's huge. So all of these games have that to their advantage. They could have been designed from the ground up with gamepad controls in mind.
And yet the demo they showed for their Infinity Blade-like RPG was just a touchscreen,
It's true.
two-stick.
And they're probably
slasher.
I bet none of them will require a gamepad, but they have the option of using the gamepad, which for a lot of designers is a good thing. And it's also cross-platform. I think every game will support iPad, iPhone, and Apple TV, or at least that's part of their advertising scheme.
And this is a big question. Is this a thing they expect most of the users to be playing on mobile, where presumably most of people are playing games on iOS, or is this a TV console arcade
Everything
style play?
they showed, somebody was demoing it on a phone. So I would think this is a phone play. I actually wonder if exclusive is actually going to be a bad thing in the long run, because it'll limit the kind of titles that are going to be included in this.
Well, they're timed exclusives, but
it is timed exclusive. Yeah. Okay, addresses that.
But you're right. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting too to wonder about how much of this did Apple actually bankroll. They could have bankrolled all of these games, and it would have cost a fraction of what it cost to do one of their TV shows, and for their Apple TV Plus service. And that we'll get into that later. That's the same price. Like the subscription fee for the TV is $5 a month. Arcade is $5 a month. I mean, I could imagine Apple looking at this and just saying, this costs us nothing. We could bankroll all of these to the tune of $500,000 each, and it would cost us, $50 million.
But they don't need to, because games cost less than those type of TV shows. The type of games they're making here, when you're talking about Frogger, the type of simple play, you're going to play for a week.
Right.
It feels like they're designing games and they're pushing games that people want to play for a week or a month so they can quickly move on to the next thing and get kind of in this cycle of playing new games, kind of reminiscent of what Playdate is doing, except Playdate is even more limited, one game a month. And then you get the water cooler talk. I don't think you're going to get that here necessarily.
No, I don't either.
You're not going to get the kids in the playground. What are you playing on Apple Arcade Plus this
They might.
week?
I wouldn't be surprised if every kid has this now because of the low price. And so they'll all be suddenly they have this 100 new games to play. So they're going to be talking about, have you played Frogger? No, I hated Frogger. I liked the underwater game. And it's, word's just going to spread. That's how these kids decide what to watch and what to play. It's that
none of these
playground talk.
At this point, none of these reading description, none of these games feel like the killer apps for this service.
Not yet.
Something's got to surface to the top, right? It's going to come out next week, and if word comes out 2 weeks later that everyone's got to play this one game, then for all the stuff they're throwing at the wall, that one game will be the thing that will sell the service.
I don't know. Whatever,
just like Fortnite,
whatever kids
PUBG,
are playing is what's going to sell.
Exactly.
The
whatever, and if there's one or two games that the kids are playing, that's what's going to push the service. Not the fact that there are 100 games. 100 is just to try to hit that mark. But I'm still not excited for it. You guys are going to subscribe to it?
Would you rather Apple did one game a month?
If it was curated to a point, if it was Miyamoto.
Yeah.
Miyamoto designing one game a month, that's $5
But that's
a month.
hardcore gamers.
Easily.
Like a 8-year-old isn't going to be like, yeah, Miyamoto designed this. Let's get in there.
That's $10 a month, maybe.
I don't know. I feel firmly out of touch with what's popular. And I see the games that my son plays because the other kids are playing them, and I would never play these games.
So you alluded to it earlier, but the $5 a month I think is probably lower than what most people expected, which is in line with then their Apple TV Plus offering, which also probably lower. And I think we'll get to the content in a second, but the subtext here is that Apple knows they're not in a position of strength. Their strength is at scale, and when they're talking about $5 a month, which undercuts not only Netflix and CBS All Access and all the other, and Hulu, but undercuts Disney, which is already aggressively pricing Disney Plus at $7 a month, $70 a year in the US. $5 a month feels like they know they don't have as strong an offering. That they need to have price be their selling factor, especially since it's a month for free and a year for free if you buy any Apple device.
And again, available to the entire family.
And also, yeah, so they want to make you feel like it is for that one coffee a month, you can get you're bought into an ecosystem, because with over 100 million, with a billion of these users out there, if 100 million people sign up for Apple TV Plus, that's a lot of money. That becomes a viable business. But they actually talked about content. They had a screenshot, and they showed a trailer. They showed a trailer for they have 2 flagship shows, it sounds like. These 2 big shows. The first is, the morning show?
Steve Carell.
Jennifer Aniston. The politics, think of it as the newsroom or some type of comedy drama, but set in a workplace environment. It's not The Office. I think it's going to be closer to something like Studio 60 or Newsroom. It's kind of behind the scenes of a morning show.
Does Steve Carell do comedy anymore?
He's dramedy.
Yeah.
He's emotional comedy.
He was on the opening episode of the Kelly Clarkson show this week, which I think is a funny deep cut.
Reese Witherspoon, Jennifer Aniston, Steve Carell. That's their big one. And then C is their big genre show.
I'm curious what you guys thought of this.
And this is Jason Momoa, just time between Aquaman, filming a big TV show.
I know I just lectured on No Snark, but I would like to have a pass on that for a second, because this looked bad. The dialogue felt like weighty and awkward in the trailer.
It looked like and I really hate to use this analogy because there was plenty of great like sci-fi channel shows, but it looked like a basic cable show, not an HBO premium channel show.
Really?
But in terms of the dialogue, in terms of story, visually, sorry, it looks like they put the money of an HBO show behind
into the visuals,
the story and the plot necessarily, the concept of a basic TV, basic cable show.
It seems like the plot is everybody is in the future is blind.
Yeah.
And then children are born with a new power to see.
Yes, a dark power.
And yes,
they may bring the turmoil into the world, and so they're hunted. And Jason Momoa is of the family of the clan. I mean,
if we give them the babies, they might leave us alone.
I stand with him.
There's
Bring
no
the
real
babies to
villain
me.
in this show.
There is. There's the queen who wants to kill the babies.
Yeah.
Maybe they're monsters that we don't know. The bigger thing is the Wall Street Journal reported that Apple spent up to $15 million an episode for these shows, for All Mankind, for C in the Morning Show. And that is equivalent to how much HBO spent on the final season per episode of Game of Thrones. Now, with Game of Thrones, you think you want it to be an apples and oranges or apples and apples comparison of like 15 million means this quality, but it's not that, because Game of Thrones at that point had reached 8 seasons of experience. They had all the production team built in, all the economies of scale of getting of producing a show up to that point. Let them leverage that. If you can't just throw $15 million, which is a ton of money per episode, at a whole new property in which they need to develop story, pay for talent, which I'm sure took a big chunk of that, and just say that's going to be a good show. So hugely skeptical.
What I don't get, so the morning show one is the one I understand. That has probably broad appeal in terms of its nature, format, who's in it. The Jason Momoa thing feels like Bird Box, right? And the For All Mankind, I'm excited about that, but that's such a narrow slice. Like, it's an alt history show.
Well, it reminds me of the very early days of Amazon Prime, when all they had was Man in the High Castle, an alt history genre show, and then they moved into here's a period piece with Marvelous Miss Maisel, and Apple has Dickinson, a period piece with about Emily Dickinson.
It feels thin.
It feels like, and Amazon over time put these pillars in with Grand Tour, with the Jack Ryan show, and of course with big things like Good Omens. There is no Good Omens.
Okay.
Here.
But you guys got to recalibrate a little bit, because, and I hate to come to Apple's defense about this, because I'm not sure I'm going to subscribe to the service, but Tim Cook did make the point that for the cost of a single, cup of coffee, as you put it, or a movie rental, as he put it, you can get all of this, like all of these,
all 7 shows that you
all shows,
may or
all
may not
episodes
watch.
of every. Yeah, but but Is there a free month of this too?
There's a free month of this and a free year.
Yeah,
so that's
if
how
you buy
desperate
something.
they are.
If you buy something, it's
if you
free
buy
year.
a phone, which people are going to do.
Well, yeah, I think that's more about the numbers. That's more about like giving away magazine
I
subscriptions.
mean, that's like it's $50 though. Like, let's not oversell what a free year of this actually equates to.
Question though, will that stack? If people are buying new phones every year, will they just keep on getting Apple TV Plus for free?
If we see this advertisement again next year, you get a free year when you buy a phone.
part
That
of-
tells
that's
me
a bad-
no one's
that's a bad sign.
signing up.
Part of
Yeah.
the iPhone upgrade deal.
Well, that's the thing. They're basically, that free year is amortizing the cost of this into their subscription service. The phone as a subscription service becomes a bigger thing where they want you, and this is kind of jumping to the end, they would rather see a world as opposed to you spending $700 on a phone every 2 years and buying maybe AirPods and a watch every 3 years. They would rather you pay them just $100 a month and get a new phone every year, get a new watch every year, and get all these services. Because that's more reliable income, and at scale, $100 a month in people's minds feels much less than here's $1,000 for a new thing every year. Products at a service.
So I'm probably not going to get this. I don't know. Are you excited? Are you going to watch these
There's
episodes?
one thing I'm excited.
Which
about.
one are you going to watch?
Oh yeah,
There's one thing. So there's a
Nostalgia
screenshot.
play.
Yeah. Or we want to put up that photo. They have it. They had this mosaic of the shows they're developing and includes the things
Yeah.
we mentioned: morning show, C, For All Mankind, Dickinson. There's also a documentary, The Elephant Queen, about the extinction of elephants.
There's a Muppet thing.
And then, yes, there are 3 children's family-friendly shows. One is Helpsters.
Yeah.
So, creator of Sesame Street, and is about, I think it's starring puppets or Muppets. There's Snoopy in Space,
Sounds good.
which is Snoopy has this Peanuts brand. Snoopy has had a long relationship with NASA and the space program.
I did not know that.
And Snoopy in a helmet is an iconic image. So that's great. And then Ghostwriter.
Oh, right. Yeah, you were excited about this.
I still am excited about it.
Tell me about Ghostwriter.
Did you not know about Ghostwriter?
Is it a
you-
comic book?
No. This was a PBS show
Really?
in the early 90s.
Okay.
Early 90s PBS show, educational show
Yeah.
about a team of kids who solve mysteries with the help of a ghost named Ghostwriter. It's a ghost. He's a ghost. And he wants to write with it. He wants to write to us.
Is this a
Ghostwriter.
So this is about
Half-hour special.
teens again?
It's about teenage. It was
Oh.
pre-teens basically
Oh,
back then.
this sounds good.
but it was meant to help you like read.
Encourage you to
you
read
read.
because Ghostwriter would be able to read and then also display words.
Like
and
Super Y.
only the kids could read the words.
Except this is more middle school than it was like elementary, like Super Y is.
Okay.
So a typical scenario would be a kid is lost in a subway station trying to find help and he's trying to give clues to where he is, and so he'd write on the ground
Yeah.
words, and Ghostwriter would read it and then relay those clues to the other team members.
Is Ghostwriter voiced by LeVar Burton?
Ghostwriter has no voice.
Oh.
Just displays words. And it got real dark because you would find out, I think in season 4 or 5, you'd get the origins of who Ghostwriter was. And it turned out Ghostwriter was a runaway slave. who
Oh,
learned how to
wow.
write.
Damn.
Yeah, it got real dark. But the new show apparently is nothing like that. According to Apple's description, Ghostwriter is a reinvention of the original series. It finds 4 kids teaming up to release fictional characters from their books. So more Indian in the cupboard than Ghostwriter.
Never jived with that title.
Yeah, it does not play well today. Yeah, has not aged well. Let's call that. That's it.
All right, but I'm down with Ghostwriter. I'll check that out.
Yeah. So Apple TV Plus again. When is it launching? Like
November 1st, I want to
November.
say.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Free month. Buy your phone. Get that free year.
Yeah, good timing.
People are gonna, you'll have your standard culture blogs and TV sites reviewing. EW's gonna review those shows.
Wait
and-
for the reviews is what
Yeah.
I say.
Yeah, I don't want. It's even less about the money, because like the free month and the free year, the first year will cost essentially nothing if you're going to buy a device. If you plan on buying a device, you can buy an Apple Watch and you'll get a free year. But it's more about the time commitment. Do I want to put 10 hours into a show that is not going to pay off for me, or I'm not going to
you guys
care
are
about?
freaking crazy. I don't
There's
know.
so much good TV right now.
Yes.
So much good content.
Fine, but it's $5. Like,
Right, but it's again. I go back to what I said 30 seconds ago. It's less about the money and it's about the time commitment.
This is the same time Disney Plus is coming out. Am I going to
Yes.
watch The Mandalorian or am I going to watch?
C.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When does Disney Plus come out?
It's around
November
right then.
12th.
Yeah.
Oh, so Apple's beating them to market.
Yeah.
Barely. Interface is something they didn't talk about too. So this is the subtextual things. Like, what is interface like going to be for this on mobile and on TV? Presumably, we know what HBO looks like. We know Netflix looks like. Everyone does it their own kind of way, and they used to do it when Amazon launched Prime. They did it to mask the library, the back library. They didn't have as big a library as Netflix, and so it was really a gateway into renting stuff from Amazon. Is Apple TV Plus really going to be these 6 shows, these 8 shows, and then really it's going to be an entryway into renting movies?
Right.
Now, Apple TV Plus would be much more interesting to me if it was $5 a month and it gave you 1 free movie rental off iTunes.
God, you want so much.
Yeah, I do. It's competitive out there. Sell me on the service. $100 million for each of these shows. $1 billion to launch.
I don't mind paying more if the content is worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd rather pay $0 and just not watch it than $5 for something I may watch a few episodes of.
Okay.
All right, let's keep going.
Okay, hardware. Quick mention, they revamped the iPad.
Yeah,
a little bit.
The bare bones.
The entry level.
Yeah, the entry level iPad.
$330, same price, but the screen is now 10.2 inches as opposed to 9.7 inches. It is still the more entry-level processor. You run the A10 Fusion chip, so it's not it's basically a 3-generation old chip, but it's more than capable. And it has a new attachment for their new keyboard, so it's not the old attachment, but it's still Lightning cable, not USB-C for this one. And this will be, students can buy it for $300. This is still their big moving into Chromebooks play, trying to get students to use it in high schools.
I actually dug the low-cost iPad. I feel like that's a part of the market that...
Let's be fair. Let's not call it low cost because you can get Android tablets for much cheaper.
For $100.
Entry
Yeah.
level. We'll call it the entry level in the Apple ecosystem. Yeah. They also touted, iOS. New iOS for iPad for both that version and also the Pro versions coming out later this year. They have like staggered releases for all different iOS versions now. There's like 13 and then 13.1's coming out like 2 weeks later.
Wait a minute. iPad OS doesn't get updated next week too?
I think end of the month is iPad OS.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh, okay.
No mini update, and it is a September 30th release date.
They just updated the mini.
That's right. That was so compared to this, that's something they didn't have a direct comparison for. This or Mini.
Yeah, or the Pro. I mean, it's like...
I think the Pro is I think most people should know whether they want the Pro or not.
Okay.
The Pro is so much more expensive. It is a different form factor. It's a bigger screen, 11 and 13 inches. All of them have pen support now. Like, if you're...
It's pencil.
Whatever, Apple Pencil support now. But if you're like looking for your first tablet, you're not going to spend $1,000 on the iPad Pro. You should probably look into either the iPad Mini or the if you want an iOS, if you want an iPad Mini, or this new $330 entry level iPad. But you shouldn't get the Pro unless you've you're going to be able, you're an artist and you're going to be able to maximize all of that processing and the pencil features and the screen size. Okay.
That's weird.
That's weird. What was that? You got a notification. And then Apple Watch. This was the second big hardware update.
First reactions, and then we're going to science this a little bit.
This was probably the most, in terms of reality distortion field, I felt the biggest reality distortion field effect on this announcement. Because the guy came out and they're like, Apple Watch Series 5, $400, and now a screen that stays on. Finally, a watch with a screen that saves on. And people are like, yes, we don't have to, wiggle our wrists anymore to see what time it is. We can have the watch stay on. Amazing new display technology.
Is this snark? I just want to...
No, I'm saying reality distortion field.
Okay.
But thinking about it 30 seconds later or 30 minutes later, it's the same watch as last year, functionally. It has a compass in
Has a
there.
compass, Norm.
Compass, yes.
Sweet compass technology.
Which is if you are a runner, if you have you want GPS and compass and directions, if you use your watch as in for its health features out in the world,
Yeah.
and the compass is probably going to be helpful to you.
Also, it's made with 100% recycled aluminum now.
I don't think people care about that.
Okay, maybe you don't care about that.
Apple cares about that. But yeah, it's the same processor. They said they added some tiny tweaks to the processor to work with this new display. But the big thing is this new display because it has the same quote unquote all day battery life of 18 hours because Apple lives on Neptune.
I'll be curious to see if it actually lasts less than the old watches, though, because the screen is always on. I have questions like how are they dealing with burn-in? And is it still an OLED screen? Because that's the whole reason why we're told it wasn't just battery life, it's burn-in. You can't leave one image on OLEDs all the time.
That's a very good question. They did not address that at all. Let's talk about this technology of the screen. Sure, you did some research.
So I think this is the actual interesting part here. So I have an image up on if you're watching the video, from an Apple patent, and they just started throwing out acronyms. So they were like, this is the first Apple device that features LTPO technology. And so this has everything to do with their AMOLED screen and power consumption and controlling the supply chain for all of this. So right now, Samsung dominates the market on typical OLED screen development. You know, when you get to like larger sizes, like TV sizes, like LG controls that market. Apple went to AMOLED, which means it has an organic layer. Those AMOLED screens were typically constructed with thin film transistors that used, let me get the acronym, like LTSP, which is just basically low temperature silicon based transistors. So what was developed about like 15, 20 years ago in the lab, and now Apple is pivoting to, is this LPTO, which is basically low temperature polycrystalline oxide. And what they're doing is combining the thin film transistors with a more efficient semiconductor called indium gallium zinc oxide, which is often used as a different semiconductor in different applications. And so what you get is sort of the flexible OLED component with better what's called electron mobility. Basically, they're getting better power transition, more efficiency in the electrons sort of moving through the gates because of this indium gallium zinc oxide compound. And so morphing them together into this one allows them to get essentially better battery life with the same sort of control elements. But now that works really well with an AMOLED screen. So now they have a fully controlled supply chain that's separate from Samsung's supply chain for it. So not only are they getting better power consumption because of the integration of this, they're getting full control of the manufacturing process where they're not sort of competing. That's the play here. This is going to end up in the phones.
That was the big rumor, right?
So
and
that's what this was about.
100%, right? And that's where the rumors were last year that this the LTPO, God, that's an acronym that's never going to stick. TFT technology was rumored to be making it into the phones because you can get 5 to 10% power efficiency increase on this. And as we've seen in the past with iPod products, they can do these at smaller scale to scale up their production for this, and they did it with the hard drives and the flash drives on the Nanos that then made it into the iPhones. And so this seems to be for the watch scale, manufacturing the watches this way to prepare for iPhones.
They threw this in. So LTPS is really good. I don't understand the science of this, so somebody else can explain. LTPS is really good at handling low frequency, so like sub 30 hertz refresh rates. Just because of the nature of how it works. LTPO is really going to do well at like the higher refresh rate, like at 60 hertz. Why you need 60 hertz on your watch, I will never know.
Animation,
but
it's got to keep it smooth.
On the phone, I can understand that higher refresh rate being actually kind of useful.
Which is the long-held rumor for next year that you might get iPhones that go above 60 hertz, 90 hertz phones, which...
So I think that also has a play there.
I mean, what they said on stage was that they got the power efficiency by having a display that can also be variable frame rate, much like the iPads. You can have them go up to 60 hertz, but when they're presumably in a low power dim mode, they can run as low as 1 frame a second,
Right.
which is all you need if you want to just have the ticking second hand.
Yep. Still does not answer the question, how are we avoiding burn-in? I understand that the screen's dimmed down, and it looks to me like some of the watch faces even take on different designs with, more contrast, more dark pixels.
Maybe they shift 1 pixel left and right.
Yeah, so I'll be curious to just is that an issue?
A slightly maybe in the low power mode, the watch faces all have a low power animation setting.
Yeah.
To avoid burn-in.
Yeah, maybe so.
Or, and here's the cynical way to think about it, they don't care, and they allow burn-in to happen so that people have to buy new watches every 2 years.
Okay. That could happen.
If you trade in your Apple Watch, if you want to trade in an Apple Watch that you spent maybe like $800 on 3 years ago to buy a new watch, you know what they might give you for that?
I want to say maybe $50.
$50.
Yeah?
$50
Because
credit.
they're selling the 2-year-old Apple Watch for $200.
Yes. Yeah. The Series 3
Yeah.
has now been, which, again, you can't call it cheap because $200 is a really freaking nice non-smartwatch. If you were to go in any store and buy a $200 watch, you get a really nice watch for $200. But that's the 2-year-old entry level,
Doesn't
quote
even-
unquote cheap.
Doesn't even do
Apple Watch.
electrocardiograms.
I know. I love. They're really leaning into saying the full word.
Did you enjoy that?
Electrocardiograms.
Did you enjoy the commercial where it talks about it tells time? And it goes in everything else it does?
It was okay.
I thought it was a good commercial.
It's a good commercial. Okay, moving on from the watch. Fine, let's talk about the phones. Okay, as expected, a new cropping, 3 new phones, and much like they did last year in retiring the iPhone 10 and were completely replacing it, they did something different last year, right? Previously they had taken the flagship phone of the year before and made that the mid-range phone, and last year they didn't do that. iPhone 10 was retired, completely just replaced with iPhone 10s and 10s Max, and the 10s and 10s Max, of course, and then 10R was the mid-range phone, was a whole new model, and now they're doing the same thing this year by not having the 10s or 10x Max be part of the lineup anymore, and now it's the 11, the 11 Pro, and the 11 Pro Max.
It's a little confusing. I would say this is definitely a little confusing to people who don't follow technology, maybe don't watch these events, and they want to get the new iPhone 10.
It's a brand 100% a branding strategy.
If they knew the iPhone 10 was like the hot phone that's got the sweet screen, OLED, all this business, they'd probably go for
The 11.
The 11.
No,
But that's not the new iPhone 10 or 10s.
no, and the 11 is basically the replacement for the 10R from last year. So
Which is a completely different screen.
it is,
And a different size.
but I think what they found out was the 10R was really well selling last year, largely because of price. That's last year $750. A lot of people found that to be a sweet spot for a quote unquote new generation iPhone. When the reviews came out for the 10R, people were really happy with the battery life. They didn't seem bothered by the LCD as much in comparison to the OLED screen.
Yeah.
Certainly not as premium, and the black level's not as dark, but it was fine screen. But they really liked the extra battery life. The best battery life in iPhone last year was in the 10R, and it also was cheaper to buy, and also the same processor. It lost the big difference that you weren't paying for was the camera. You didn't have that second camera; it was a single camera. But using software, they allowed the portrait mode with the single camera. Whatever. That worked. That sold really well, but there was still a perception that the 10R was was the bargain phone, right? Was the compromise phone because R comes before S, and no, totally.
Okay.
Right? 10R, 10S, it's like the S type is the best one. The R type is maybe not as good. And it was like if you can't afford the 10S, you get the 10R. I think they're changing up their marketing and branding this year where they really want people to think of the 11 as the standard phone, as the one to get. And then that elevates the 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max to a more, even though they are the same price as 10S and 10X Max, you get a better sense of prestige because they know the people of the money will pay for it.
I'll buy that 100%. But I do think it's going to be confusing. I think there's people out there that think the iPhone 11 is the follow-up to the 10, and they're going to think it's the same phone but better, and it's not.
But it is better. You don't? I think the 11 is better than the 10s. A13 chip, much faster, best CPU, best GPU.
Yeah.
Wide angle camera.
But you just told me that it was considered the bargain phone.
From perception standpoint.
Right.
But
So-
the reality was the
Yeah.
10R was fine.
I think it's a much better value. I'm
it
with you.
is.
I'm with you
And
on
they
that.
cut the price down by $50.
But it doesn't. Yeah, fine. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to do really well this year because a lot of people, even more people, are going to consider buying the standard 11 phone. And the people who have the disposable income will find more value, perceptional value, reality distortion field value in buying the 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max because they'll feel more elitist and they'll feel like that's a more premium experience. Even though, really,
Like I did when I bought the 10.
the big difference, well, the 10 was such a big difference over the 8 at the time, right? You could,
Yeah.
like, if you got a 10 and an 8,
Yeah, where's the 9?
right? Well, the 7, 8, 9. If you dad joke, sorry. If you bought the 10, like that was the first one with the notch. That was the first one with the edge-to-edge screen,
Yeah.
right? With the face ID,
Dual cameras.
right? With the 10R and the 10S, it was tougher to differentiate between those. And really,
Well, yeah.
they didn't want to diminish. Like they've done a really good job. Remember the 5C came out?
Yeah.
Remember the 5S and 5C?
Yeah, the
The
plastic.
candy coated, right? Oh, Johnny I is talking about polycarbonate,
Intentionally plastic
right?
or whatever.
Like lovingly talking about
Yeah.
polycarbonate. It lasted one generation because people didn't buy it.
Well, it's
because people
was
felt
kind
like
of the
it was
10R.
cheap. Except the 10R turned out to be much better success because all the reviews ended up being really great about it, and it got the great battery life.
The thing I actually don't understand is why they have the 8 still part of the whole thing.
I-
As
ecosystem.
the entry level.
Because it looks different. It like
I actually think it's for the home button. Like I think that they're like honest to God, I know many people in my parents' generation who want that home button and who just don't want to deal with the swipe up.
yeah, but I mean they were kind of ruthless around the headphone jack, so I thought they might just be equally ruthless on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also leads into the rumor that Apple's next year's phone, the one that is presumably on now that they're on a 3-year design refresh, 10, 10, 10S, and 11, that one will have 5G. That one may have bring back Touch ID under the screen. That's one of the big rumors. And this year really is about the camera system. So we have a whole new lineup behind us. It starts off on the high end with the Pro and the Pro Max. That Pro moniker, this is the first time they've put it on the phone, I think is going to really work for their marketing purposes, for people to feel like they're getting the extra value on a expensive phone.
Matte finish.
Oh yeah, is it a matte finish?
Yeah.
It's
It's
different
like
finish.
dark green, all new stuff.
I saw
night green.
I saw a hands-on where they said the finish actually does a really good job of preventing fingerprints.
How about the grip? One of the problems was the grippiness of the old phones was too slippery. It was
Because
easy to
it's
drop.
glass, yeah.
Only a fool would carry a phone, not put it in a case.
Yeah.
No, only the careless. Cases are for the careless.
Cases are for the careless?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with carelessness. It has to do with being clumsy.
If you don't
You're saying
understand
the
the
same
joke
thing.
that's happening right now is Norm's screen is cracked and he never uses a case.
You know, I live with this screen. As a complete aside, I've lived with this cracked screen now for almost 3 weeks, up to a month, and I'm okay with it.
How
believe
have you survived?
It's totally fine.
I actually thought it was interesting that their commercial that they aired for the new phones really features heavily people being careless with their phone.
Dropping,
Yeah, dropping it like accidentally, dropping it like in between the car seats or into a bag and into your purse and having it clang around with all the stuff in there.
You know, I'm sure in an alternate reality where Apple had successful manufacturing with their Sapphire screens. Remember that when that
Yeah.
used to be a big thing? They still do Sapphire screens on the high-end Apple Watches. They would lead into that even more. Like, I feel like once they get to a point where they can actually do Sapphire screen phones, then they're going to really, really market the hell out of that. And AppleCare might let you, they might promise the unbreakable phone.
We'll see if they need to. Once again, they say this is the strongest glass ever.
Right. Just like it's the fastest processor ever. Just like it's their best phone ever.
Well, that's different,
you
though.
think you'll love it.
Yeah. Can we talk about
think it's gonna change
let's
the
talk
world.
specifics about the cameras.
Okay. So as we mentioned, the 11, the standard,
Yeah.
going to be probably best for most people who want an iPhone
Yeah.
phone, has a new wide angle camera. It has two cameras now. If you talk about focal length equivalents, if you use a 35 millimeter camera, full frame camera, you think about 35 mil as a very standard focal length. On phones, it's really been about 24 to 26 millimeters. So the standard single camera that you've had on most of iPhones and most Android phones is about 24 to 26 millimeter. It's wide enough to get close to things. The minimum focus distance is good. But now they have a really wide, a 13 millimeter equivalent
That's huge.
wide angle lens.
120 degree field of view.
If you look at a full frame camera or even APS-C camera, buying a camera lens that goes that wide can be pretty expensive. Like I have a 16 to 35 mil, and this goes technically wider than a 16. You rarely want to shoot more than wider than like 20 mil because
It's
that
almost
range,
fisheye.
Right, and things that if you look at their sample images, all the subjects are in the center. If you look at that dog portrait mode, the dog is in the center. Those wide landscapes where you have like the silhouetted subjects, they're in the center because with that wide angle lens, once you put the subjects close to the edge, if you don't do lens correction, the lens distortion correction, it looks warped. People get stretched out toward the end. Rooms look weird. Now, I will say that not only is a wide angle lens like this going to be great for landscapes, it's also going to be great for interiors.
That's it. Yeah.
It can make a small room like this look really big. You know, if you're renting your room out on Airbnb or if you're a realtor, that lens is going to work out great for you.
It's going to save you from having to do panoramas in some cases.
Yes, and I'm really curious. Can you do you've seen those kind of fisheye panoramas? Can you do a fisheye panorama?
Right.
With the kind of spherical globe videos or photos with this new 13 millimeter lens?
I dug the interface, by the way, where you could see the wide angle kind of behind the camera controls.
I think that's clever too, because currently you can tap between the two different camera lenses on an iPhone 10 or whatever, but there's no indication of that's a much better visual indication that you're missing information. Like if you want, it's there for you.
Not necessarily you're missing, but it's the option, the framing, the framing of the image that you get also then is combined with the extra image. And that ties into how they've kind of meshed that computer vision, right? Where previously, if you're switching between the two lenses on your 10 Plus, you're tapping between 1x multiplier and their 2x, right? 2x from 25 mil to about 50 mil, 52 mil. Now you can slide between that.
You can do that now.
But you can do it seamlessly, even more seamlessly, and you can do it in video too.
Yeah.
It's more, they call it more a zoom as opposed to a switching between lenses. They're changing the image between lenses because they're always gathering images from both.
So I want to point out that in addition to the two lenses that you just said, the ultra wide and the wide angle, the Pro has a telephoto lens. So it adds a third lens to this equation. And what's interesting to me about that is that they didn't add the telephoto is there on the 10 and the 10S.
Yeah.
That's what we have already.
Right.
But they're taking that away from the 11.
But the 11 never had it. Remember, the 10R never had that telephoto.
Oh, it never did?
10R was only one lens.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So that's why the 11 is
interesting.
in every way an improvement over the 10R.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, but it's interesting that the 10 has two lenses, and they're a different configuration than what they have on the 11.
They are. Now, I think that we have an image that shows maybe we don't have the image, but Phil Schiller put up an image that showed the three lenses, and they have, if you want to know the specifics, the ultra wide angle is going to be on the one that's on the right.
Yep.
The bottom one is the telephoto. It's a 52 millifocal length. It's larger, they increase the aperture, so you can take more light in, f2, 6-element lens, and the standard, they call it the standard wide camera lens, also 12 megapixel, 26 mil equivalent, f1.8, which is pretty good, and then the ultra wide angle is f2.4, 120 degree field of view.
So what do you think that means that but back to the 11 for a minute.
Yeah.
The fact that they dropped the telephoto and they went
The fact that they did not opt to put in a telephoto.
they went ultra wide instead of telephoto.
They think that more people
Are they shooting indoors? Like, is that why? Because that's the use case?
I think they'll find that more people find the ultra wide more useful.
Yeah.
I also think that this is an AR play because I think a wider angle lens combined will give you better SLAM computational vision for AR apps and SLAM.
I think you're absolutely right about that. It would.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's part of their thinking.
Do you need stabilization on the ultra wide, or you think you get that when they
kinda-
fuse the images together?
You get kind of stabilization built in when it's wide. Right? Wider angles are by nature a little more stabilized. And then the video stuff was interesting too. Right?
Yeah.
Not only can you do like your zoom now from on the Pro from ultra wide to telephoto seamlessly as you're shooting a video. There's also the interface now where you can add, click the button and start recording a video instantly. That's just a UX thing, UI thing.
But that appears to take the place of rapid fire photos.
So you can't hold down a button.
Because that's what I do now. Like I hold down to take,
interesting.
and then brrr, it'll take a ton
That's
of
a really
photos.
good question, yeah.
So I wonder if that's an option in the menus.
But now the processor is strong enough to be recording 2 videos simultaneously.
Well, that's crazy.
But it's only up to 2 streams. So
Yeah.
they use Filmic Pro as the app they demoed this. And it looks like in Filmic Pro, they have the ability to kind of select which feed you want to pull the image from.
So the third-party app that it's not going to be out of the box, but apparently the SDK will support, allowing to pull from any of these 4 cameras. You can pull 2 streams simultaneously.
3 cameras on the rear of the phone and 1 the front. And so you can either film both a wide angle and a telephoto at the same time, or you can do the rear camera and the front-facing camera.
Yeah.
So you can do kind of a documentary-style interview back and forth.
I think a lot of people would probably wonder why would you want to record both wide and telephoto simultaneously.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of editing tricks if you have both of those footages. You can cut between them and basically cover up a jump cut where you would have otherwise noticed that
Right.
there was a cut there.
Right. And previously, you would do that just by cropping in.
Yeah, exactly.
But now you have just better image quality because you don't have to crop in.
Yeah, well, given that they're 4K, you still could crop in.
Yeah,
But
I
you
guess,
still got to.
yeah. 4K 60.
Yeah.
The front-facing camera now is bumped up to 12 megapixel from 7 megapixels, and also does high frame rate. So, I'm going to hold back the snark on this one. Apple is encouraging people to take high frame rate selfie videos.
No, what are they calling them?
Slofie.
Stop it. This is
Hashtag
hor-
selfies.
Although I will tell you, this is the one thing that made my 12-year-old laugh about the whole event. Like I picked him up from school. He was like, "What happened today?" And I told him about this stuff, and I was not.
This is the moment. If you have an air compressor in your shop, if you have a fan, high-powered fan, this is your moment to shine.
I don't know who's doing this. Like, isn't that front-facing camera basically for obviously selfies,
Yeah.
but also for FaceTiming? You're not FaceTiming in slow-mo. Why are you shooting slow-mo from the front camera?
Slofie's.
But why do you got to see yourself doing slow-mo? That doesn't make any
Because
sense.
it'll be a new trend in
turn the
in
camera
photography.
around.
But you can't see yourself.
I don't-
You want? I don't know. I don't know, Jeremy. I don't know.
We're not defending this.
Okay.
The other interesting stuff, obviously, Google's had huge success with their night sight feature on their Android phones.
This looks good.
On the Pixel phones, and Apple has really lagged behind, even though Apple, the sensors and on their cameras have been good. The night sight computational photography image on the Android side has been really almost a killer app for
It's
those
been
phones.
just a totally reinvented the camera on the Android.
Even before they, made that into a feature with a trademark on it, their low light photography was better than iPhone, in my experience.
This
So-
seems to be using a different technique though than night sight, which was just sort of like long exposure. Almost.
No, this is long exposure. It sounds like Apple has another like a night mode, which will take about a second to process. So it is computational photography, and it's going to be smart bracketing.
But aren't
They'll be
they
taking
using-
multiple exposures at a lower exposure, higher and then higher shutter, and then slower, and then combining them and picking out the details that work best with this image. So your
thought-
subjects needs to be still.
I thought they were using some of the infrared data though, which I don't think night sight on the Android does.
There's no infrared
there's no
data
infrared on the back
from the
cameras.
back. That's only front facing.
Oh, I was wrong then.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Yeah. They did rework their image pipeline to have depth data. I think you're talking about some type of depth data. Maybe the way they do portrait mode.
Yes, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Because you can now take portraits of pets and inanimate objects.
So that image pipeline is they'll rework. They say that's the semantic rendering. So their database and their processing will allow the system to understand what type of subject it is and which details to pull forward. You've had some of this in the past. That's how portrait mode sometimes can recognize that it's supposed to be hair that's supposed to be in focus as opposed to something in the background. It's 50-50 whether that stuff really works. And then there's a feature coming later in the year called Deep Fusion.
I think this is going to be cooler than people think.
So the sample image they put out, I think they didn't do a great job of demonstrating.
Not
This
at
was
all.
looked like a very standard, photo of a person wearing a sweater.
Plus, Phil Schiller kind of built it up a little
He
bit.
really built it up, and
Yeah.
like even on stage, like you had to paint a word picture to describe what benefits you were
Yeah.
getting.
Yeah.
But the benefit was because it wasn't about portrait mode. It wasn't about lighting. It was about detail.
Yeah.
It was about compression.
So, and synergy, like taking all of the lenses information and synergizing them into a single photo. I think
Right.
that's what's happening.
But in effect, what you're getting and why he zoomed in to one part of the sweater is that this type of image, if you took it from a standard camera that used standard JPEG compression, a standard image pipeline,
Yeah.
would be very noisy at those parts, right? You wouldn't get a lot of the fiber detail. It would choose to compress because
see.
it is, if you're storing a 12 megapixel image, you've got to compress somewhere. Presumably, this means that once the deep fusion stuff comes out, you get more process detail and the JPEGs look much better.
Yeah, I didn't get that would affect your JPEG compression at all. I get the impression that it was just really about fine details and mimicking a higher resolution sensor by combining the three different sensors together.
So the equivalent of a 20 megapixel picture.
Sure. Yeah, but obviously not 20 megapixels. But it would be like 20 megapixels shrunk down to whatever your iPhone
Which
resolution is.
For me goes
12.
back to compression.
Yeah, I don't know. It is.
I think it's I think this is their way of not. If I took this picture in like a third-party app like Halide that lets me take a raw image,
Yeah.
right? The raw image would give me all that detail, and I could use noise reduction to software noise reduction to kind of refine it, right? If you take this image that they someone with a very detailed sweater on a standard phone and then you save it as a JPEG as your phone would normally do and you zoom in, it would look crunchy. There is like a look to smartphone photos that just look crunchy on the pixel level,
like video.
a little bit like video, and not even like compression blocks, but the way like lines, it's a smoothing algorithm, right? The lines are not as resolved as you would get on a high megapixel image, but on a raw picture, you would get all that detail. This just simplifies the process, so you don't have to go through that raw process. You don't have to manually do anything, and it does save you a nice compressed image with high detail.
And do you want, in portrait mode where you have the controls and you can sort of change like bokeh and stuff, do you want controls in
I don't
an
think they're
interface?
gonna give you that control.
I know they're not going to,
They
but
don't-
would you want it? Would that be
No.
useful?
Oh, I would love that. They have not done depth sensing on that camera yet. Like all of that is still just the front facing camera.
So that's a big camera update. That's it from the Apple event.
Oh, we should mention the processor is like 20% faster.
Yeah, A13. They made they're obviously this is moving toward them making an ARM chip for laptops faster every year.
Yep.
It's going to be still Lightning cable, no USB-C. I think that's notable. Still basically USB 2.0 speeds if anyone still does data transfer over cable, over Lightning.
So don't the iPad Pros use USB-C? Doesn't something?
Yeah, iPad Pros use USB-C.
That's very strange.
I know, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then we'll include an 18-watt fast charger. And that charger is a USB-C to Lightning connector.
Oh, hilarious.
Baby steps.
So you can technically connect your phone out of the box to an iPad Pro and charge it that way.
Oh, because it'll have the cable.
Yeah. Instead of a Lightning to USB-C.
Nice.
Yeah.
And will the iPhone 11 be able to use that faster charger, although it doesn't come with one?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. All to be tested. That's it for the Apple event.
Really?
Are you going to buy anything?
I think I'm going to upgrade my watch. My watch is 3 years old, and it's very sluggish.
Got to get those LTPOs going.
Yeah. I'm really interested in the always-on display and the burn-in potential.
Oh, you can tell time then.
I know. There will be an option to turn off the always-on display for some people who don't want it, because some people don't want it. And I'm sure the new theater mode that you swipe up from the bottom to activate will just turn off the display completely.
The material science geek in me is really interested in that titanium treatment they did. I want to know more about that with the watch.
Hey, ceramic's back.
Yes, ceramics back. That's right.
Titanium and ceramic. If you want to spend over $1,400 on a watch that'll last you probably 2 years.
Are you going to get a phone, though?
I said in previous podcasts I would not.
No phone here.
No?
No phone here?
Where are you
iPhone
at,
10?
Jeremy? Are you at 8?
10.
Oh, you're at 10. Sorry.
The 10 should be a 3-year-old phone. I really don't like that I cracked the screen.
You're going to get the screen replaced from the new certified replacers.
That's what I'm thinking.
I'm surprised you're not getting the new phone only because the Pro is just basically a souped-up camera. And that's norm stuff
I'm
there.
with Kishore. I assumed you were going to be tempted by that camera.
I am tempted by the camera.
I mean, I have bought lenses that cost more than that phone.
right,
So-
but you can still use those lenses 10 years later.
Right. That's true, but, life is short.
Baby's only going to be 1-year-old for 1 year.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
That's sweet wide-angle lens.
I'm not trying to convince you at all. I would just sort of, having that sort of 3 camera in one situation and being able to test it.
I just want to correct something I said like 5 minutes ago. You said about the bokeh. And, and why aren't they making more features that take advantage of that cool depth sensing? That is in portrait mode. That's on the back camera. They use the main camera for that function. They don't need the IR depth
they don't need
sensor
IR.
for that.
IR just makes it easier.
Yeah. So why aren't they doing more with that? That would be an interesting, that's magic. Being able to control the depth of field.
And you could do that only on the iPhone
You could do it on 10.
10s.
Yeah, but it's all the...
You can't do it on the 10.
You can, but there's third-party apps. You have to download
okay.
third-party apps
Yeah,
to do it.
right,
And it's all the information's there. It's really neat depth stuff. So I'm surprised that they're not making more magical apps from that. That's all.
Yeah. All right. Before we continue on to our next segment, I want to let you know that This Is Only a Test This Week is made possible with support from Evident. Evident is revolutionizing the way personal data is shared. Evident provides a simple, secure platform that lets businesses confidently know who they're dealing with without handling sensitive personal data. With connections to thousands of authoritative sources through a single API, Evident is the only platform that enables comprehensive, accurate, and up-to-date identity and credential verifications, and companies can create a solid foundation of trust and safety on their platform, allowing them to seamlessly verify workers in less time and with more confidence. Businesses can stay up to date on any changes to relevant information, as well as readily adapt if and when compliance requirements evolve. Evident is bringing confidence and peace of mind to personal data interactions across the globe. Verify anything without risk and the expense of handling sensitive personal data. From identity verifications to background checks and everything in between, businesses of all sizes can get the answers they need with Evident. Check it out at evidentid.com/test and sign up and get started immediately. That's evidentid.com/test to sign up and start running verifications in minutes. So remember when we talked about Apple TV Plus and one of the new shows that's coming out is Dickinson, Emily Dickinson, period drama as portrayed by Haley Steinfeld?
Yes.
Well, she might be stolen away, the actress, to the Disney side because Haley Steinfeld is now the front runner for Marvel Studios' Hawkeye TV show, Disney Plus show, to play the role of Kate Bishop.
Yes. Good
The
casting.
new Hawkeye. I think it's really good casting.
Very good casting.
I mean, she definitely has the acting chops for it. Great in True Grit and most recently in Bumblebee. And I think she would pair well as a
she's good.
protege for Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye.
If you haven't read Hawkeye Annual 4, which is Matt Fraction's take on Hawkeye, where he's teamed with Kate Bishop, this is really like snarky Hawkeye, very different art style, kind of almost like Telltale video game kind of comic image style. Is really great reading if you want to prep for this Hawkeye series.
Is Jeremy Renner in the show?
He is in the show playing Hawkeye.
Wow.
So he'll be passing the mantle down to a new Hawkeye, Kate Bishop. And Haley Steinfeld is a universe studio crossing actor because she's also the voice of Spider-Gwen in Into the
Stop
Spider-Verse. I will not. I will not, Jeremy. Dropping those knowledge bombs. And guess what? That's it for pop culture news.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, Apple announced a bunch of new stuff. No, I'm just kidding. There's still some stuff to talk about.
Look, this is a big announcement for me, and probably me alone.
Is it Apple related?
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Yeah, I'm probably more excited about this than anything. I'm not going to buy anything that was announced yesterday, but I'm using this already. They announced Apple Music is what it is. I'm sorry, it's not iTunes at all. It's Apple Music now on the web. So if you're an Apple Music subscriber, and I gather there's a lot of them, I'm one of them because I was a Beats subscriber, became Apple Music. I like it. I use it all the time in the car, but I am on a PC, and so I don't know if you guys try to use iTunes on PCs, but it's a horrible experience. Like, it doesn't launch for me half the time. It doesn't shut down half the time. I never use it on the PC, but now you can on the web, beta.music.apple.com, and you log in, you got your whole library. Anything you've uploaded to the service, all of Apple Music is there, and you can stream to your heart's content. And I quite like it. I'm so glad they've finally come around to putting Apple Music on the web.
I mean, Apple Music was built off of the backbone of Beats Music.
Yeah.
And didn't they have a web player?
Yes.
Yeah. So is this just a version of that?
It's obviously it's been many years, and so they have made it from the ground up. They actually opened up Apple Music to third-party web integration, and you could access Apple Music via third parties. But it just seemed kind of strange that Apple didn't do it themselves. Now they have, so that's great.
All right. So, other last Apple bits of news, the products just came out, but we're already talking about next year. Bloomberg had a story about next year's iPhones, and we talked about the potential of bringing back Touch ID under the screen, and also a reduced notch in next year's phone once they get that sensor smaller. But the other big rumor is an iPhone 5 SE replacement. A smaller iPhone could be coming. Looks similar to the iPhone 8 and would have a 4.7-inch screen. Imagine that. That small of a screen on a phone. 4.7-inch screen.
Why don't they just bring back a flip phone? What is this?
Remember back in the day, the Dell, which phone was that? The 5-inch Dell phone, one of the first Android phones in 2010. God, we were so stupid back then.
Hey, if a flip phone is good enough for Captain Rogers, it's good enough for me.
That's the spirit.
It's good enough for Iron Man even.
Well, no, he got
he
sent that by
sent
FedEx.
the phone. Right. Hey, you either of you use Google Docs?
All the time.
time.
Do you care about your word counts?
Yeah,
Are
why
you
not?
a college student? I think only college students or grad students care about word counts, really.
No, I have documents at work where it's like there's limited word counts.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
In certain sections, yeah.
Well, Google Docs, it's something that's in their Google for Business suite already, but they're rolling it out to everyone. It will now let you see a real-time word count. This is like Word doc, Microsoft Word feature circa 1998, circa 2000.
This is going to stress every author I
I
know.
know, isn't that? It's a terrible, terrible feature. It's one of those things that you're better off not knowing it in real time. Word counts are terrible. I just wanted to bitch about it. There was a new Nintendo Direct this past week.
Yeah, I mean, just like every other Nintendo Direct, there's more Smash Brothers characters announced. I didn't think that was that big of a deal, but Luigi Mansion, which I like that game.
Oh, yeah.
Is getting a party mode, but most importantly, we're getting Overwatch. And it's like Overwatch Legendary Edition or something is what it's called.
Okay.
I'm really excited about Overwatch on Switch. No?
I love Overwatch. It's a fantastic game. I mean, I don't know. Certainly has replaced TF2 as my favorite, squad shooter. I love it. I imagine it was a challenge to put on that hardware.
Oh, I'm sure the port was exceptionally difficult. And I wonder if it is going to run as well on the new Lite, which is coming out about the time the game is coming out.
Why wouldn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know what the internals is. I don't remember what they are.
Nintendo Switch Online, which is the subscription service you need to pay to play online, but you also then get access to a library of free games, launched last week with its SNES library, 20 SNES games you get to play, including things like Star Fox, Kirby's Dream Land 3, Super Mario Kart, Super Mario World 2, Super Tennis, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, Pilot Wings F-Zero, among many others. And if you want to spend $40 or $30, you can also buy a new SNES controller, which charges over USB-C. It's a wireless SNES controller for the Switch.
Link to the Past was, I think, my second favorite Zelda game.
I never played it.
Oh, what?
Yeah. That's the one they're remaking, right?
I think so.
It's coming out this month.
Really? That's soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
This year's ending way too quickly.
Yeah.
It's Link's Awakening.
Oh, that's the one that's on the
Yes.
Switch?
That's the one that they're remaking.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the old Game Boy game?
Yes.
Well, there you go. I never played any Game Boy games.
What?
Yeah, I never had one.
Really?
Yeah, no, I didn't have a Lynx. I had no portable game consoles.
Should we get you one?
No, I
mean, like, would you want one
it's all
now?
good. My wife had one, and so I have hers. Like,
You know each other back then.
no, we did not, but
So
she
you-
kept her Game Boy, so
Okay.
I knew she was a keeper.
Okay. Did you have a Neo Geo?
No, dude, who had a
Who
Neo Geo?
had that?
Well, you can have one soon because Neo Geo is releasing, or SNK is putting out a Neo Geo Arcade Stick Pro with, you got it, 20 preloaded games.
Have we gone too far? Like, with all the Dreamcast hype last week on the anniversary, I was like, have we gone too far?
That was this past week as well. 20th
Yeah.
anniversary of Dreamcast is a big deal. People want that Dreamcast Mini.
How is it only 20 years, though?
What do you mean only 20 years? It's a long time.
I feel like Dreamcast was longer.
No, Dreamcast 20 years ago, 9/9/99. It's 9/9/2019, 2 days ago, 3 days ago.
I will say, just on that topic, I forget who it was, Gary or somebody retweeted somebody's question, like, what was your quintessential Dreamcast game? And I didn't see anybody mention Virtua Tennis. For me, that was the first game I ever mistook for live footage.
Whoa.
Yeah, I remember going over to Next Gen magazine. And
Yeah.
somebody had it on. I thought it was a tennis match.
No, it did not look that good.
It did. It did to me. Like, obviously, I wasn't fooled for like days.
Not like Lego, the movie.
No, we don't have to discuss that. But yeah, I will give them props for making.
Son, did you know how they made this
Stop it.
movie? The first game to fool me, and I think it was real, was Madden for PS2. 3?
Really?
Must have been PS2. Yeah. Madden PS, and it was more about the animations. It was about the sideline animations between plays and the movement of the characters.
Gotcha.
Felt more realistic. Yeah, very smooth animation. Yeah, of course it all looks like garbage now.
But what was your favorite Dreamcast game?
Crazy Taxi.
Yeah, that's a popular one.
Crazy Taxi is pretty popular.
I was no
Gary
good at it.
played that on stream. He hooked up an old Dreamcast.
Oh, nice.
And so it had the original music. I had forgotten the soundtrack to that game.
Hey, we didn't talk about the biggest thing to come out of Nintendo Direct. Well, maybe it wasn't even talked about Nintendo Direct, but they just released a YouTube video about it. It's the Ring. This Halo Ring thing.
What are you talking? Oh, the new controller.
Yes. This motion controller that you attach your Joy-Cons to, and then you kind of vigorously
Yeah.
squeeze,
Does it?
jump.
Is it only compatible with one game? I mean, what is it for?
The idea is that it looks like it's going to be compatible for fitness applications. So much like the what was it, the platform that you stood on,
Yeah, the Wii Fit.
the Wii Fit. That's right.
This feels like a shake weight for the Switch.
And there's even a thigh band that you put a Joy-Con on that you then wrap around your legs.
Wow, full body tracking.
Yeah.
No, it's not full body tracking. It's one thigh
One
tracking.
thigh, 3 degrees. Well, the fact they know it's on your thigh will allow it to approximate. If it knows how high your hip is, then it could approximate.
If it doesn't know height.
But if you like input in
Yeah,
how
yeah,
tall you are and where your hip is,
Yeah.
If you tell
Then you
it
can calibrate
everything
it.
about you,
then it can give you some positional tracking with your thigh movement
Yeah. And also force feedback
and a little bit of rumble feedback.
right on your thigh.
oh, I got shot on the thigh again. Oh, I got shot on the thigh again.
That's weird.
I mean, I joke. I think some of the Wii Fitness apps are actually not that bad. But I don't know what this looks like for the Switch.
And then moving on, last bits of technology news. Hey, LG TVs are getting G-Sync support. through a firmware update. This year's LG TVs, so you get up to like 120 hertz smooth frame rate if you plug your RTX card into your
Yeah,
TV.
are we playing games on these TVs now?
You could totally. A lot of people do. And then the Equifax settlement. This is important. If you filed a claim to get $125, you probably won't get it. I mean, who thought they were going to get it? Anyway?
Me?
You?
Yes.
Well, do you have
No,
the
this
credit
is
service
more-
that you spent money on?
I filled it
verify?
out to stick it to Equifax because I was not going to let them not have the full settlement go out.
Apparently, they only have like $35 million set aside to pay people their $125.
Yeah.
And 120 million people signed up.
The math
So
doesn't work out.
It doesn't work out. And so, yeah, they have now said there's no way anyone's getting anywhere near that. And in order to pay people a little bit more, we're asking everybody to verify that they were 100% honest with us and tell us who what was the service? Some sort of protection?
Credit monitoring.
Credit monitoring. Yeah, they're asking you what credit monitoring service did you have in place? Because you said you had one. So,
Well, now they'll know that 99% of the people who applied were liars.
well, if you do nothing, you get nothing. So that's the problem. The alternative is to amend your claim and take the free credit monitoring instead.
Screw that noise. No. No. Last bits of news. This should probably have been in pop culture. We got a new Lego Star Wars set, a new UCS model kit. It is a 4,784 piece Star Destroyer.
Come on, this is for you. I have the video in the background. Does this bring back some nostalgia of that time when you lost your mind and you took a fully built and functional Star Destroyer and crashed it into the Death Star?
Yes. I want to do it again. This is a revamp. There was previously a UCS Star Destroyer that was about 3,000 pieces, and it was released in 2002. But this is not only more pieces, 1,500 more pieces, but bigger as well.
So is this the biggest UCS ever?
Number of pieces wide? No,
Yeah,
Falcon
okay.
is still, I think,
Okay.
6,000 pieces. This is 4,800 pieces, essentially.
Look at this camera shot. This is well
Commercial.
shot.
Yeah.
Like, watch this camera somehow goes between the fins of the Star Destroyer. This is a small lens. This part. I mean, I suppose they could have been right up on it.
That could also have been CG.
This is real, isn't it? They're not going to CG this.
It's probably really nice.
It's well shot.
Yeah, well shot, cropped in maybe. So it's 43 inches long.
Yeah.
That's big. That's 3.5 feet.
Yeah, that's huge. And I don't know. I love Star Wars, but this is a monotone build. I mean,
Well, that was a big complaint with the 2002 release of the UCS Star Destroyer. That it was a really repetitive build.
Yeah.
And structurally, it didn't feel that strong because the Star Destroyer is, unlike the Super Star Destroyer, it has a lot more volume. It's a little more, it's taller, right? I still think the UCS Super Star Destroyer is a better looking ship, but this one, not only is it 43 inches long, $700, it also comes with a tiny Tandem 4,
Oh.
a what?
a tiny blockade runner.
A what?
Tantive 4 blockade runner, Princess Leia's ship.
Oh yeah. All right.
That
Cool.
It captures
Cool.
a tiny one for scale.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like that you build, or it's
That
like
you
a
build.
like a minifig.
Oh, no, you build.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So $700 out soon. The big Star Wars Lego set for this holiday.
Okay.
Before we continue on, because we've got to wrap up in a little bit, I'll let you know that This Is Only Test is also made possible this week by Bombas. When's the last time you refresh your sock drawer? If you don't remember, it's probably time for an upgrade. Bombas socks are made with comfort innovations like arch support, a seamless toe, and a cushioned footbed, which is sock speak for super comfortable. They come in hundreds of different colors and styles, making them perfect for men, women, and kids. I'm a big fan of getting socks for all occasions, for birthdays, for Christmas, and if someone would give me a pair of these, I would love them very much. Bombas has a new line of merino wool socks that are made from soft, warm, and naturally moisture-wicking wool, designed with all of Bombas' classic comfort features, from keeping cool and dry for your morning run to staying comfortable in your office freezing air conditioning. Bombas socks are ready to work as hard as you do. And for every pair of socks you buy, Bombas will donate a pair to someone in need. And Bombas are what feet daydream about. Go to bombas.com/test today and get 20% off your first purchase. That's bombas.com/test for 20% off your first purchase. Bombas.com/test.
Now it's time for a moment of science.
All right, a really quick moment of science this week. So last week, the Indian Space Agency tried to land its first moon lander on the moon. This is their first attempt.
Yay!
The lander crashed. This is a two-part mission. There's an orbiter going around the moon, and then a lander named Vikram that came down about a mile from the surface of the moon. Its trajectory went off of track. The indications are from this morning from the Indian Space Agency that the ISRO that it did land, but it's just on a tilt and it's out of communication, and that's based off of information from the orbiter looking down on it. But astrophysicists have said that given the distance the orbiter has and its resolution of its camera, it's probably not seeing more than a couple pixels of information about the lander. So they can't, you should take that with a grain of salt, that there's still a high likelihood that it's crashed. Either way, even if it's on a tilt, reestablishing communication is going to be exceptionally challenging at this point. All of that being said, U.S., Russians all crashed a ton of landers when they were first trying to attempt to go to the moon. This is nothing but a massive success.
They got something on the moon, man.
Yeah. I haven't gotten anything on the moon. Have you gotten anything on the moon? Not even once.
I probably couldn't even get a laser beam on the moon. That's awesome.
I believe that you actually could. But all that being said, I think it's a phenomenal achievement. And if you read anything that says the word failure associated, it's wrong.
I understand they did this really inexpensively, too. Like $150 million, the entire mission.
Yeah, I mean, I think those numbers don't account for some of the ongoing kind of monitoring and maintenance components of it. But yes, it was relatively cost effective compared to other missions.
10 episodes of Apple TV plus
Moon.
C or
Moonlander. Moonlander
on the moon. I think the latter. That would make a great 10 episodes documentary.
Second is I had a story about vaping last week, about mysterious illnesses tied to it. Well, things have escalated really quickly. So right after the podcast last week, the FDA and the CDC came out and basically said, stop vaping. Just stop. Like, these illnesses are not tied to bacteria or viruses, so it's not a contaminant in that way. There's some indication that people that have gotten sick either bought just like off the street with THC in it, or there's some vitamin E component. What the CDC said was that you should take those reports not holistically as representative of all the cases. They just don't know what's happening here. And so they've recommended just stop. Just stop until we figure it out. The Trump administration this morning is saying they're going to move to ban any flavored e-cigarettes.
Great.
This morning, this is the right response. I can't stress this enough. Like, if you hear the stories, Vox did a podcast yesterday about it. People have permanent lung damage, the ones that have gotten sick.
I feel bad for parents with kids who came of age in the past 10 years for this reason, because there just hasn't been enough negative press about this.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is that you might not know is, like, companies like Juul, which are sort of fashioned in their advertising as independent companies, they're owned by R.J. Reynolds. So they're owned by big tobacco companies. And they put out wildly irresponsible statements about the safety of their products that are not validated by the science right now.
Imagine that.
The VR Minute. Virtual reality this week. Couple of new VR releases we want to talk about. One, we got Battle Wake from Survios, which just came out this week. And good news for people who are interested in that. It is cross-buy between desktop and Quest. People didn't know if that was going to be the case. It's not out on Quest yet.
It's coming to Quest?
It's coming to Quest.
I didn't remember that.
PSVR and Quest.
Wow.
But we played a bunch of it, and I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a good time. I think it would be even more fun with more people.
Yeah.
We only did the two of us because it was before it was out, but it was it's a blast. It's like it's not a first-person shooter. It's more of like a third-person pirate ship shooter.
It's really innovative movement because
Yes.
you talked about it after you played at GDC, but on the deck of the ship, you are controlling the ship with direct hand control. So you are moving that big wheel.
Yes.
And the grip, the points where you can grab onto it, all feel really good, really natural.
And but you can sort of grab that wheel in any position, but
Exactly.
then
It's
you're
a
also
big steering wheel.
half the time and then with other hand you're firing because you fire off the bow of the stern.
But you're not
the
firing
port.
directly from your hand. You are
Whichever direction you face your hand.
You're right. You're pointing kind of at the place that you want then your
The crew.
ship, the crew to fire
Yeah.
at. But effectively, you're firing from you.
Yeah, it's like you're willing the ship to fire in
Yeah.
whatever direction you face your hand, but then you're steering with the other hand.
Yes.
But then you have to use both hands to steer sometimes because there's emergency brakes on your
Yes.
left and right, which are extremely helpful.
Yeah, the biggest complaint I've heard so far, and I definitely felt the want for this while playing this, is that I want to be able to slow down or speed up the ship.
Right. You can speed boost, and I think you can pull both emergency brakes to brake and stop.
But there's no like fast speed,
No,
slow
there's
speed.
no throttle.
There's no throttle. And I think that's intentional. They want people to always to feel like they have to be moving and navigating
Yes.
around the
the
target
winds do not
areas.
relent.
And also, I'm glad they didn't have the winds actually affect the ship. It's not a sailing simulator.
You can go
It's
in
a
any direction.
Totally arcade game. I think up to 10 players in multiplayer.
It takes itself lightly. It's a sense of humor. It's arcadey. It's a fun game, and it looks really cool. Like the water physics are great, and the ship is fully at the whim of them, but the camera perspective isn't. So they do a good job of letting you feel like you're on a ship that's riding these tumbling waves without making you nauseous.
Yeah, very comfortable, I found. There's also, of course, Stunt Runner that came out. So
Rec Room mode.
Rec Room Stunt Runner. We played that. We talked about that. Had a bunch of fun with it.
Yep.
The user-created maps are not available yet. The map level creator. So I think that's supposed to be in a week's time.
I don't think I've been more excited to see what the users create in Rec Room until this mode. Like this is exciting.
Speaking of user-generated maps, I've been playing a lot of Cloudlands. And the map
we all do
editor
that.
on that is so much fun.
Oh, have you used it?
Yeah, I started using it because I finished the campaign mode.
Nice.
You beat all the courses.
I beat all the courses. It gets pretty challenging late in the series. Jeremy and I played against each other one night. He only beat me by 30 strokes.
What?
Oh, I've never beat Stunt Runner. I've never beat Norm at Stunt Runner ever.
Didn't you just lose by like 2 seconds last night?
No, it was more. It was I've never even come close to beating Norm. He's just weird.
I'm really good at the game.
Yeah, you're really good at games.
Yeah, we'll see. The Spider-Man had a Far From Home VR experience. That was a
Not great.
No, the first one was very. Remember when Zach came on? We talked about the Homecoming one was okay, but it made you want to do web slinging.
Right.
And then the Far From Home one does you do web slinging.
Don't care for it, but all
Oh,
right.
really?
Yeah.
Okay. I think there are a lot of different philosophies when it comes to web slinging in VR. Right. There's what's the game called?
Not Windlands.
Yeah, Windlands is a version of web slinging. There's also that one, the gumball, Unbreakable Gumball.
Well, there's
that one.
Jet Island, which also
Jet
does it.
Island people love because that's very momentum based, right? And this one, and that's actually swinging. This one, I think, is more like Windlands in that it's pulling you as you go,
Right.
And that really encourages you to need to really let go and release. So Windlands works best when you're being pulled by the grapple and then letting go and then swinging using momentum. Jet Islands is all about physics, and that's why it can be uncomfortable for some people. But the Spider-Man Far From Home experience, the VR experience, got index controller support, so it's free and it's worth trying if you have the index controller. And then, speaking of interesting locomotion mechanics and swinging, there's a video that popped up from a developer on Reddit, a game that they've been working on for 2 years, it looks like.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to pull up the thread right now to pick up the name of it. but it has a really interesting locomotion mechanic where you are also grappling and pulling yourself with these kind of like these energy beams.
Okay.
But they let you then climb on giant titans. So you can actually have these giant creatures walk toward you, and you are climbing up their legs
I saw that.
and going on its back.
Yeah,
and
looks cool.
presumably then shooting it. I'm trying to get the name of this. I don't have it right now.
It wasn't out yet. I mean, is it early development?
Early development.
Yeah.
But they'd shown some first footage for it. Oh wait, I do have it. It was the first thing in our show notes. It is called. Check it out. You can go Rise of the Titan. There it goes. A VR title, and it's on. You can add it to your Steam wish list. But watch the trailer. I thought it was interesting, and I want to try out this kind of grappling on a giant walking titan mechanic.
Me too.
Last bit of VR stuff to talk about. We have some announcements to make. Well, we have a announcement to make. Tested. We actually have been working on this for quite a while, and we put out our first VR app. It's on the Quest, Oculus Quest, and Oculus Go, and it's called Adam Savage's Tested VR. It's a VR video series where we go to the space. We went to the spaces of 8 different makers and documented their build processes and their projects with VR 180 video. And our goal here was to try to get the sense of a one-day build that we normally would have shot with Adam. And we did do a one-day build with Adam in his cave, in this format, but also then take you to the workshops of makers all around the United States, a very diverse group of makers making all sorts of stuff, some faces very familiar to tested viewers, and some folks that we've just been big fans of and then that we reached out to. So they generously welcomed us into their space, and Joey and I filmed there for a couple days at each.
In all fairness, I know a lot of people who love VR have feelings about 180 video, but this is worth checking out because you guys didn't just take a couple GoPros and tape them together.
No.
You spent some time researching the best possible camera to set up with.
Yes, the best possible prosumer camera. It was all gear you can buy off the shelf, but it's all, there are a lot of considerations. It was a big learning experience. We did this whole thing with support from Oculus as a kind of how to experiment into what this type of filmmaking would look like, because we have so much experience filming with flat screen cameras, but not a lot with the VR cameras. And it was hugely educational. We learned so much. Joey's going to be up here by the time you listen to this. He is going to be up here. We're going to do a podcast with him on Still Untitled about his production workflow.
Oh, awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's, by the time you listen to this, it should be out on the Oculus Quest store. And it's free. You can download it and watch all the episodes.
I like free.
That, I think, does it for the podcast this week. Jeremy, I know you have jury duty.
Well, I'm not selected yet, but they want to take a look at my face.
Okay.
So I'm going to go downtown. Let them see.
Just don't look biased.
Right.
Look neutral, like
No,
Buddha.
look super biased.
Yeah, exactly. It depends. The devil on my shoulder and the saint.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anything else you guys want to promote, talk about?
No, I got to go.
All right. Thanks for listening. We got an outro this week.
Wohawk's back.
Hi there, I didn't see her. That's it. God. Cosplayer crossover.
It was probably the 3rd most popular outfit I saw. There was a lot of Bob Rosses. Yeah. Bob Ross. Yeah. Bob Ross Dalek, one of the hits of the con that was just wandering around. Yeah.
Is that robotic or is he walking around?
This one, he was walking around. There were robotic Daleks all over.
And for people listening, the Dalek is the lower half of the costume, with the top half being the more traditional Bob Ross of the wig and the paint palette. Is that robotic or is he walking around?
He was walking around. Bob Ross.
Robotic?
Yeah, just wandering around. But it's not Davros the Dalek, it's Bobros the Dalek.
Robotic or is he walking around? Robotic?
Houdini! Yeah.
Is that Jawa for checkmate?
See you next week.